Welcome back to part 2 of episode 3 with Ross Ducat. In this episode, we go all into Ross's app, the Lucia Light, and how it can put you into hypnagogic state and help you sleep. Enjoy. I guess we should come back to what you're doing now, because you founded Lucia Light. Tell me, it's quite an interesting story actually about how you found out about what was the machine called that actually does it?
So yeah, the way I found it out, so yeah, I'm not a scientist. I didn't invent this concept at all. The concept's actually been around for years, potentially over 1,000 years. Actually, the ancient Greeks that found out about it. But the way I found out about it was through my dad, actually. So he read a book that was what I considered to be one of the most dangerous books I've ever read. It was it's a book called, maybe I don't know, I don't want to give it out there. Don't go near it.
What's it called?
It's called The Infinite Mindfield by a guy called Anthony Peake. The thing is, the guy's obviously the reason it's dangerous is because he's very, very smart. He's reading like top white papers about quantum biology. I don't even know that was a topic, the latest physics white papers, and he's reading them and distilling them down in a way that's easy to understand. So he's obviously a smart guy. But the conclusions he's drawn from that, he then puts on the same plane as religion and superstition. And the conclusions he then comes to about what reality is were quite scary. And my dad had read that book, and he got scared by it. So he'd said, look, Ross, you did a philosophy degree, can you just take this apart for me? So I started going through the book and being like, look, this is conjecture, this is a fallacy, like, don't worry about this, this isn't right here. Anyway, the start of the book and the reason that he said he wrote the book was because he went to this light machine. And when he tried this machine, which is called the Lucia Light Machine, when he went on it, he, and I think I'm getting this right, that he had an experience with the snake of the Kundalini, if you know where they are.
What's that?
So it's an old Hindu mythology that we have two snakes inside us. You know the medicine sign? It's like a scepter with two snakes going around it. It's a very, very old symbol.
At old sessions, there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, there is.
Ross and I are the same networking group with access to this place. Anyway, carry on.
Name drop them. Anyway, he said he felt one of these snakes coming up through his spine to the front of his forehead and said, this is what reality is, Anthony. You need to write a book about this. So then he wrote the book. So I was thinking, that's a weird thing to say. I'm going to try and find out what this machine is. Googled it.
Oh, wait, it wasn't your dad. It was the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah, the guy that wrote the book who tried this machine.
Okay.
So then I thought, I'm going to call bullshit on this machine, basically. So I went and then Googled it. Really weird coincidence that I found out that there was only two of them in the world at the time, and one of them was touring around in the UK, and it was touring in the UK on my dad's birthday. I hadn't got him a present yet, so I was like, this is your present, we're going to go to this machine. Things like 15 grand to buy it, or like £100 an hour to use it. So I rented it for an hour, and we went to where it was, which was just a lovely couple in like North London, maybe like Cricklewood or something, North London couple, husband and wife, really, really, really friendly, but just like in their living room. So we went in. As we're going in there, there was a waiver we needed to sign. It was like a 7-page waiver, risk of this, risk of that. So I was thinking, this is actually getting a bit serious now. So the brave man that I am, I sent Dad in first. I said, it's your present. You can go in and try this. So he ended up going into the room, and I was just waiting outside. And then after 30 minutes, the guy came out, and he's all in white, linen, prayer beads, that kind of vibe. And he comes out and he's like, your father's ready. So I was like, right, okay. I then go into the room, and the machine itself is kind of like, when you go to the dentist and you get that light pulled over you. It's like that, but you're lying on a massage table with this light that gets pulled over you. He'd finished his experience, so he'd taken his shoes off to put on this table, and he was sitting on this chair, just like this, at the end of the room, putting his shoes back on. But when he was putting the shoes back on, he was like that, like shaking around the place. So I was like, oh my God. So I walked into the room and I said, are you okay? He didn't reply, and then the guy that was running the thing just started laughing. So I was then weirded out and asked him again, hey, is everything okay? And then I can't remember, the guy said something cryptic like, you'll see, or you'll find out soon, or something like that, but just weirded me out. Anyway, my dad took a deep breath, came up to me and said, thank you, and then walked out of the room. So I was like, that was a weird response. Like, you were just freaking out, and now you're telling me thank you. So I was on edge a bit already.
Shut her off.
Then it was a bit weird. And then the guy was like, right, are you ready to do this? I was like, yeah, let's try it out. So I then lay down on this massage table, and the guy said, look, we can start it at level 1. If you're happy with that, we can do like a little trial at the moment. We can step up to level 2. If you can take that, we can go up to 3. And I said, what's the maximum? He was like, well, 4 is the maximum. You can have it right in front of your face. And I was like, mate, I think I can handle it. It's a bit of light, a bit of sound. Start it at 4. If it's too much, I tell you to turn it down. I don't pussy about with the 1. A lot of back and forth with him. Eventually he agreed. He's like, okay, we'll just start you on 4. So put it on 4. It's right up in front of my face, and the way to describe it is it's a halogen bulb, so like a standard kitchen spotlight with 4 strands of LEDs coming off to each side. So quite a lot of lights with this constant line between, and it's kind of about that far in front of my face. And you've got headphones on, listening to this particular type of sound. And 4 was a lot. The way I describe it is, if you imagine that you're on a summer's day and you dive into like a cold swimming pool and you feel that initial like rush of water like coming past your face, it felt like that, but with light. Like light was being rushed past me, but it felt like I could feel it, almost like water being passed over me. Really, really intense, like I was being catapulted forward, but still on the spot. I'm not doing the description justice. Anyway, I had about 30 seconds of that, and then the guy turned it off. I was like, oh, that's more than I was expecting. And he was like, thumbs up, thumbs down. I was like, no, give me more of that. I like that. Let's see where this goes. And let's go in for the full 30 minutes. So guy then turned it on. You keep your eyes closed. Your eyes are closed the whole time. And the experience, which is very much similar to the Lucia Light experience, when the first time you do it, it doesn't feel natural. It's a strobe light in your face for an extended period of time. So at first it's kind of like, ooh, I'm not really sure if I like that. And then you relax into it. Your breathing changes, start breathing through your abdomen instead, and once you relax into it, I started seeing kind of Euclidean geometry. I started seeing fractal kind of shapes. There was lots of colours. There was a feeling of like very, very deep relaxation, like your body is just almost like under a weighted blanket. It was a really, really nice feeling, and it was just pretty. It was just like a kaleidoscope, but internal, which is a weird way to describe it. You're not seeing it with your eyes. You're seeing it with your head. You're seeing like images that generate in your head, very much like a kind of daydream, but a very strong daydream. Anyway, once I'd really relaxed into it, this is going to sound weird. So once I really relaxed into it, I had an experience that brought me to tears. And the best way I can describe it is, if you imagine you're glued to the bottom of a helicopter and you're flying over the sea, but the sea is vertical in front of you. So you're above it, but it's in front of you, which is a weird sensation. And the sea, which wasn't a sea, it's just kind of the way it was rippling, was like a circle, but it wasn't a circle, like it wasn't a sphere. It's hard to describe what this thing was. But the color of it was something outside of the rainbow. It was a color that doesn't exist. It was like a blue, red, gold. It was all of those things, and yet it wasn't any of those things. It was something completely outside that my eyes had never seen before, and it was so pretty, it made me cry. And I've never cried from beauty before. I've never just looked at something and just wept from the sheer beauty of what this thing was. And it kind of felt kind and like friendly as well. It's a really weird thing to describe. Anyway, I could feel the tears like rolling. I'm lying down, so I could feel the tears rolling down the side of my face, each side. And I suddenly became aware that I could feel my body. So I knew where I was. I was gripping myself, touching like my side here. It's like, yeah, I know that I'm still here. I'm still Ross. But my eyes, it was a complete duality split. My eyes and my head were in a completely different place to where my body was, but they were both happening like at the same time. Really weird experience, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit. So then I kind of figured out that I kind of freaked out a little bit, and then I lost it. And then I was back to that colour world with the shapes and then kind of the nice place. So very, very strange experience. Came up. Obviously afterwards, the guy was like, "Oh, I think that had quite an effect on you," because I'm waking up with wet eyes, tears down my face. And I said, "Yeah, that was beautiful. I've never experienced anything like that." And I wanted to ask him every single question I could think of, like, what did the one mean? What was it for? Why do the lights flicker? What do the different flickering patterns mean? Does that have something to do with it? How did the sound work? How do these things all fit together? God just told me everything. We spent about 20 minutes in there talking about, showed me the computer programs, like how all the stuff interacts with each other and what kind of each thing meant, and kind of how he used it and then what he used it for. And after that, we had to go home. So I had to go back for my dad's birthday lunch, and I couldn't stop thinking about anything else. I told him to keep that quiet. Like, don't tell Mum you broke earlier. Like, just keep that quiet. Don't tell her we had a weird experience. So it's a bit of fun. And then when I got back home afterwards, I was thinking, look, I want to do that machine again. Like, I've got to be able to do that machine, but I'm not paying 15 grand for it. It's also like the size of like a small car. Like, there's no way I can't fit that in my house. And then I got thinking, well, it's basically just an LED, like a set of LEDs, but I've got an LED on my phone that can be programmed to flash at certain hertz and change patterns. I know the sound that they were using, and I managed to find that sound and then rip that off of YouTube. I've since made much better sound. So found that sound and found out how to make these things all interact together. And I thought, I could just do this at home. Like, I don't need to pay for it again. I can have like a little budget version for myself. So what followed was then months of me going home, and when it got dark, I would go up to my bedroom, lay on my bed, and then shine strobe lights into my face, and just make note to say, okay, this is like a 12 hertz, 12 flashes a second. This is what a 12 feels like. I'm sitting here for an extended period of time. This is what a 4 feels like. This is what it feels like to go from a 2 up to a 10. This is what it feels like to go from a 16 like down gradually. This is what a really fast decline feels like, and just kind of learnt my way around what the frequencies do, and then what kind of effects they had. And after that, I was thinking, because I was having these little experiences, so it was taking me to the colour world. I never broke through again to that place where I was seeing that, colourful, godlike thing that made me cry. I've never got through to that again. I've done the Lucia Light Machine again. I didn't go to that place again. But I was in that middle place, which felt beautiful. A full weighted blanket, a relaxation like I've never felt, and a beautiful kind of light show. So it wasn't bad. And I could figure out what the different frequencies do and how they all felt. And then after a couple of months of that, I told my mates about it. I told them what I was experiencing. Done it on a couple of friends. Manually, literally holding my phone over their face and steering them through different kind of patterns and kind of just making like effectively 15-minute songs, but with light. So following a different kind of pattern, but made with light. And they were all saying the same things. They were saying, I get into this colour world, I feel like relaxation, and this like a really strong daydream. And then I thought, cool, I've probably got something here. Like there is definitely, I haven't heard this anywhere else. It's something you can do via your phone. I don't know anybody else doing this via their phone. But I was getting paranoid that I'd kind of primed them for it, that they were expecting this. They've heard me talk about it and they've heard my experience, and I'm almost like I've made them experience this because I've been telling them so much about it, and then they've done it and they've been kind of having the same experience. So before I think I've got a business, I need to test this on somebody raw, test it on somebody that doesn't know anything about it, no priming whatsoever, and see if they can have the same experience. So luckily, I'd had a Tinder date. It had gone very well on a Friday night. First time we've ever met, ever met in person. The date went very well, should we say. We ended up back at my house, and let's just say at the end of the night, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. She was like, all right, I'm going to go to bed now. I was like, yep, cool, let's go to sleep. I was like, oh, actually, there is something I want to try, and this is going to sound weird, so I'm going to need you to trust me.
Oh my God.
I'm going to be taking my phone out. It's going to look like I'm taking a lot of pictures of you, but I'm not taking pictures, trust me, but I am going to have my camera flash. I'm going to need you to close your eyes and keep your eyes closed for the whole 15 minutes. You're not allowed to open them. And I want to put headphones on you so you can't hear what I'm doing.
Is this a first date?
First date, both of us naked, laying in bed. And the first time we've ever met, I said, do you trust me? Luckily,
I'd say absolutely not. I'm out of it now.
Yeah, which would be understandable. Luckily, she was very trusting, and she let me do it because I said, look, I don't want to tell you what's going to happen because I don't want to kind of interfere with your experience. And she had what is kind of the standard experience that I've seen most people do for their first time, which is at first, she's laying there, headphones on, I'm manually holding the phone in front of her with her eyes closed, kind of shining right between the eyes, and I was following quite a fast pattern with her because I deliberately wanted to do quite a stimulating kind of pattern. So she was laying there, and at first it's screw face, not really enjoying it. You're thinking, this doesn't feel right.
Nothing new for you.
No, nothing. Yeah, but I don't enjoy this.
Always starts like that.
Yeah. Just breathe through it. You'll get to the good bit. But that is it. You breathe through it. You do get to the good stuff. And luckily she ended up just pushing through naturally. I didn't tell her that. Now I prime people with it, like expect this. But she just happily pushed through it, went through that, and then she relaxed. And you can see she'd stopped breathing kind of with the chest and started breathing with the abdomen, so she started getting very relaxed. Then, like 4 or 5 minutes in, you see little twitches of the mouth as she's obviously starting to smile, she's starting to see things, like something to happen. So I'm like, oh, okay, she's obviously having a good experience. I can see her eyes rolling and her mouth twitching, so she's obviously she's looking around at stuff. Got to a bit, about minute 7 or 8, and then she went, and just sat up out of nowhere. I was worried, because I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't got insurance. I mean, I've just done this on myself. So I was like, hey, are you all right? Are you okay? And she's like breathing, and she was like looking around, like looking at me, looking around the room. And said, what happened? And she was like, at first, I didn't really like it. I was like, okay. And she was like, then I relaxed and like forgot that the lights were there, and there were all these like weird colors and weird shapes coming at me, and like I was in these like weird daydreams. I was flicking between like whole dreams really fast. I was like, okay, that's a pretty similar experience to what I'm expecting. But then she said she went to a place deeper. And the place she went to was another world, and this world was a chessboard that stretched out to infinity in all directions, but that she was the chessboard. What does that mean? And she kept saying, what does that mean? What does that mean? At me. And I was like, I still to this day, I don't know what that means. Well, I've never heard that before or since. Like, that is so weird, but amazing. You've had an experience where you relaxed through it, you got to that weird, colourful place, you had a deep state of relaxation, and then you went even deeper and you got into this bit that was like this dream world. Amazing. I've definitely got a business here. And her name was Lulu. So I've actually named this, because she was the person that made me realise I've actually got a legitimate business here. I've then named the company after her. I got permission for it, don't worry. Yeah. But yeah, the Lulu Light was actually because of that one very trusting experience from Lulu.
Wow. That is a hell of an origin story for a company. I mean, I've done it myself, haven't I? So obviously I did it. I did a chair a little bit like this, so there was no back. The only problem was I sat there, and because I'm a bit taller,
a lot taller.
When the light was on, because you'd attached it to a table, so it's coming at me like this. Now, if you can't see me, if you're just listening to me, I had a chair that didn't come up to support the back of my head. And it felt like the light was pushing my head back, even though it wasn't. But it felt like I was constantly in a state of I'm having to fight against the light.
Yeah, it's a real shame you were sitting up and we couldn't find anywhere for you to lay down on it. And that was actually a good lesson, because I now know that you can't have people sat up in a chair with nothing to support your head, because I'm putting you down to go to sleep, and you do feel that motion where you're being almost like a weighted blanket. You're being laid down, and without being able to relax back, you were having to fight it, which kind of broke your experience. We'll do that again.
I'm still very keen to do it again, but I think the interesting thing here is that there were only 2 machines in the world that did this.
At the time,
And you managed to figure out a way to put this into a phone, and now you can have that experience. And the way you're going at it is it can help you get to sleep.
So that was trial and error. So that wasn't what the business was first at all, because after that, those initial tests and that first experience, I was chasing that. So I was chasing the experience that I had, the experience that Lulu had, where she went through to this like dream world. And so I was making an app that was kind of like a free psychedelic that had no downsides. And if you're epileptic, you absolutely can't go near this. You will have a seizure within 3 seconds. If you're photosensitive epileptic, this will trigger something. If you're not epileptic, there are no downsides. There's no risk to using it. It's just a strobe light. So I was initially chasing that.
That we know of. Just in case.
It's been around for years. I mean, it's no reported cases of it. So I was chasing that psychedelic experience as a kind of, it was hard to market as an alternative to drugs, as something you do when you get back from a night out, or it's something instead of meditation, it's more like a psychedelic introspective meditation. Really, really hard to kind of figure out what the customer proposition could be, but I was chasing that because that's what the effect was. And the first beta that we'd had out, and we'd launched it, we were testing on about 100 people, and we're doing in cohorts of 25. You can use a test flight. You can hire people with Apple. I don't know if I should say this actually, but you can hire people under Apple, under your emails, under your company, have them all test it for free, and then you fire them and then rehire another 25. So you can do it in groups of cohorts, and you can test people for free. And we were going through. We do a month, so everyone gets so we do a couple of months, so everyone gets 2 weeks able to use it. And in week 1, I said you had to use it 3 times. So you've got to use it 3 different times, and we had a Google Doc thing that you can come back and report, say what your experience was, and then week 2, freestyle, see how you use it, because I wanted to see how people were actually using it. And week 1, amazing reviews. People were writing paragraphs about what they saw, what they experienced, how they felt. Some really touching stuff where people had been able to. Some people are saying they could process the grief in years of grief in a couple of minutes. Other people have said that they'd connected with long lost parts of their childhood, and some really interesting stuff feedback. People saying it was one of the most profound experiences they've had in just 15 minutes. And yet week 2, no one used it. No one. you think, and that was across every single cohort. And you're saying, week 1, this was profound. Week 2, you just didn't get around to using it. I would ask people when there's, I've got kids or, work or something got in the way. And when do you really make a room dark and then go have a psychedelic profound experience? Like, when do you get around to that? And I was very determined that this is what the app does. This is what the effect is. This is what this thing should be. And was fighting against what people were telling me. And, I wish back in the day that I'd actually listened to what the people were telling me. So we then made a second app. I thought maybe it needs more branding, maybe it needs more options. There's more flexibility around what the lights do or what the sounds do. So let's make more options for people so they can customize it and then see what happens. And again, week 1, use it 3 times. Week 2, it's freestyle. No one's using it again. And it was heartbreaking. And at that time, I'd had a whole thing with the business that had ended up falling down. The relationship ended up breaking down. We've had that quite a few times where the whole thing's just completely collapsed. And then, luckily, I'd found a good friend of mine that I used to work with at that branding agency, actually. We'd made another version of the app. And by this time, I was thinking, okay, I need to preface this with a kind of different approach. I thought, I know what the lights do. I'm really used to the frequencies. I know that the really fast ones give you these kind of psychedelic, introspective, weird experiences. I know the middle ones really help you meditate. And I was thinking, this is what the app's going to be now. It's a meditation app. Like, we're going to take on Headspace and Calm. We can put you in a deep meditative state like no one else. It's going to be a meditation app. And slow ones make you sleep. Just chuck that on there. And again, for everybody, week 1, you've got to use it 3 times. You use one of each. You do the sleep, you do the meditation, you do the fast one. And you have like a psychedelic experience. And we had the cohorts, everyone going through it in 25. And we had, again, paragraphs of feedback of the fast ones, people saying they loved it. Great experiences. Middle one, people were saying, yeah, I meditate and it helped me meditate, but I already meditate, so I'm not really sure. But the sleep came back differently. So what was really different about this beta was that out of every cohort of 25 we had, there were 5 or 6 people in every cohort that were using it every single day, every single time. And some of those were in the first 2 groups that I tested with. And I was like, what is different? Like, last time I gave this to you, you loved it, but you didn't use it. And now you're using it every single day. What is the difference? And all of them were saying, look, my wife's a nurse, she has anxiety, or my husband's really stressed at work and he's got an overactive mind, he has to drink a whiskey before going to bed. And we didn't have to do that at all with your app, we just need the sleep part back. Like, it was just the sleep one. I want to be on the next beta that you release, but we just want the sleep part back. Like, I don't need the rest of it, just give me the sleep part. And you think, okay, well, if there's consistently, like, you've got like 20% of people that use this are saying, like, I need this and I'm going to use it every single night, but I just want that back, and can we have it next week as well? I thought, okay, there's like a business case here. There's a problem we've got a genuine solution for a problem that's quite widely felt across, a wide spectrum of people. And we've got an innovative, weird solution that can really work for people. And there's no downsides to it. So despite really wanting it to be a psychedelic, crazy alternative to something, for drugs, I had to scrap all that, and despite all the good reviews that it had, I had to scrap all that. And despite me thinking this is meditation and seeing like the money that is made with meditation apps, I had to scrap that as well and say, look, there is a business case for sleep. There's a demand for it. I've got a unique solution to it, and just tailor everything towards sleep. And then as soon as we did that, everything became easier. But the marketing, the messaging, the direction, the logo, the branding, everything became a lot easier once we focused on sleep. So, I think it's easy when you're first building something to have ideas of what like you want your little baby to be, and what you kind of think the world is going to like, how it's going to receive it. But you never know until you get it out there. And there is a lot of wisdom in crowds. And I think once you give it out to the public, have people use it, they can kind of build it for you, because you can be in I wasn't in an ivory tower, but you can be in your own little world, building things away to what you think is like a good idea. But until it's been out there tested in the wild, you just don't know. And really, as soon as you can get it out into the wild, do it from every angle that you can. Try and break it effectively. Try and manipulate it and bend it around into every kind of possible way it can be manipulated, and then see what sticks and what doesn't. And then effectively, what sticks is what your business is. And I wish I'd kind of learned that earlier and listened to people earlier.
I think that's a really good piece of advice in general, just for general life, is about. I think when you're proud of something, you built something, you actually don't want to do that. You don't want to take it down. And there's something, you look at all the highest performing organisations in the world, look at the SAS or Navy SEALs, they red team things. You heard of red team?
I've heard the phrase, but go on.
Red team, so essentially they put together their plan for an operation, and the red team come in to try and pull it apart and how they would attack it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so it's all about this, how do we make this plan as best we can? Well, we need people to stress test it. You look at Pixar. Pixar have this process called the Brains Trust meeting, and this is where the director has a film that they've made, the first draft,
Right.
the first thing they have to do is put it into a Brains Trust meeting. Brains Trust is all of the other directors come in and just rip it apart. This is where it needs to improve. And that's their difference. So Disney, who acquired Pixar, were not doing well with films in this period when Pixar, everything they were putting out was just smashing it.
Yeah, okay.
It barely didn't have a hit. And the two guys that were in charge of Pixar went over to take hold of Disney as well. And the Brains Trust, one of the first things they did, because they do a Brains Trust meeting 3 or 4 times before the film was then ready to go out, because the other directors just pull it apart. Yeah. And they'd make it better. Whereas me as an maybe egotistical director might not want any negative feedback. I'm a well-known director. Yeah. I put the film together. You all give me a round of applause. It goes out. Yeah. And there's wisdom in crowds. They all go, that's rubbish, won't watch it. Yeah. However, if you're open to that feedback, you can make yourself a lot better, but it's very hard to do.
It is very hard to do, but it is the winning strategy at the end of the day. So yeah, you can't be too. Once you're obviously emotionally invested in something, and actually financially invested, and your life's all wrapped up in it, you have to have that distance with it. And I think that's really hard as a solo founder. And a real problem about being on your own is that one, you're very, very attached to something, and you've got a particular way. Obviously, you've invented it, so you've got a particular way that you think this thing is going to be in the world, and it's also really hard to detach yourself from it and think critically from an outside point of view with it. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of companies are set up with 2 or more co-founders, is because that's a real strength, is having somebody else that's maybe not conceived of it or is coming kind of a bit afterwards and can see things from a more objective point of view. That's a real weakness as a solo founder, which is why your network and community is really important for that, and why you've got to have people around that you trust. People that I found good friends weren't necessarily the best people to ask. Because they're good friends, so they want to support you. They're not quite sycophantic, but they're not going to rip into it, or they're not going to be dismissive of it. Yeah. And I found some of the best feedback came from friends of friends, people that were kind of connected to me, but not really, or strangers that just didn't care whether they hurt my feelings or not. Was actually some of the best feedback. So
yeah, so there's kind of 2 sides to it. There's this sweet spot of feedback, isn't there? Because like you said there, I work with a lot of companies. There are some that all get on really well. Not a good recipe for feedback because they don't want to hurt each other. Yeah. That's what you get with your friends. Then you have the other side. People that want to just tear you down for the sake of it. And you can't trust that either, because they're just being arseholes. Yeah. And it's the middle people that are actually trying to make an objective decision. But discerning them is quite hard. Yeah. So who's giving you criticism from the place of
good intentions,
and who is just trying to bring you down? And sometimes it could be close friends that actually have their own insecurities, don't want you to do well. Yeah. That might say, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't take that risk, no, I don't do that. And actually they just don't want to feel bad. And that's more common than you'd think. And I think finding that sweet spot of who's going to give you, who's the best for me? My brothers. Okay. Because they love giving me feedback. Yeah, of course. Because they like to tell me what they know, but actually they're quite honest, and they also don't want to see me fail. Yeah, okay. So they're probably a good balance for feedback. Strangers as well, they've got no intention to hurt you. They might just want to help. Yeah. Who have you found? Who's been someone that you've been...
I actually found, ex-work colleagues were some of the best. Yeah. So people that you've got a platonic association with, you're friendly with them, you've known them, but we don't talk that much. So maybe an odd WhatsApp every 6 months or something. But they've actually given me proper constructive feedback where they wanted to have good intentions for you, because they know you're a nice person and you used to get on, but they don't owe you anything. So that's actually been the best insights for me have come from former work colleagues that I'm not actually that close to anymore. Always had good relationships with people that had kind of been in my life. People that aren't ill-intentioned, people that want to actually see you do well, but at the same time, they're not just going to blow smoke up your ass. No. It's hard to find those kind of people. And actually, on the other side of that is, I had friends that did want to rip into me just because they're like that, grown up like that, and having them be converted was what really kind of gave me a lot of motivation. There was 2 in particular who were ready to just rip me for shreds, and what is Ross doing with this Light app thing? I don't even really understand it. Why is he putting his life into this? This just surely is a joke. And one of them particularly came away and being I didn't realize you were serious about this. I didn't realize that it was like as powerful as this. I didn't realize it was going to be an experience like this. Like I came up here ready to rip you, and that was actually a really good experience. Like that was much more intense than I thought it would be, because that was very fast patterns kind of back in the day. And having him converted and being like, he came up there, guns out, and ended up, putting them back in the holster and giving me a round of applause. That was like, oh, okay, this is something really motivating here.
And how long do you think it will be until you can actually release this app?
So we're currently fundraising right now. So we kind of opened the fundraise at the start of July, and we're going to close the round on Halloween, 31st of October. From there, we've got, with the development team that we've got at the moment, it's like a maximum 3 months to be able to get it onto the App Store. We could probably do it quite a bit quicker than that, especially if there's some good money involved. So yeah, we'll be hoping to release right at the start of 2025. Jesus, so yeah, start of the new year. Also, it works better for us releasing in the dark, because that dark binary effect between the night and the blackness and then the bright light creates a stronger effect. So releasing it like the height of summer would probably be the least effective where we'd be, unless you've got like blackout blinds. So having it released in winter, and it's quite a depressing kind of time. January is quite rough on the soul. So people are usually, you've had the Christmas, you've had New Year's, your bank account's pretty much empty, you're looking at the grim February and stuff up ahead. Like it's not a good time for people, and people are stressed, and people are usually worried in January. And struggling to sleep. But it's really, really dark. That's the best when Lulu works anyway, so it should be the perfect time for us to release.
And there was one other thing, because the app itself, like I think people are probably imagining you have to hold it above your face. If you're looking for sleep and you have a white ceiling, you can just put it on your bedside table and it has
So there's different ways you can do it. So that's what we say is the first way to try it if you're not, because you won't be used to it for your first time. There's the gentle way into it, which is lay it on your bedside table. You then lay under your ceiling. Most people's bedroom ceilings are flat and white, so they work like a light board. You can lay out there, which is actually how I did it last night. I laid it on my bedside table. I lay underneath it. The light is powerful enough to shine up, bounce off the ceiling. You're laying there with your eyes closed. It's still powerful enough to shine through your eyelids, still hit your retina, and send enough signal to your optic nerve to stimulate, saying, I'm receiving a signal, but obviously no image. And then your brain kind of creates its own image. So it's enough to create the patterns. And that's a good intro way to do it, because it's a lot more gentle. Obviously, the light's already bounced off something. Once you're used to that, you can do it the good way, which is to do it directly at your face. So what I usually do is I have, I always go upstairs with a cup of water at bed. I then just lay my phone up against my glass of water. You lay on your side. Over 75% of people sleep on that side anyway. So I just lay on my left side. It's probably about that far, anything between 6 to 18 inches away from your face. You can be quite flexible with it. Just lay it there. You've got the light kind of aiming between your eyes, and you just lay there for the 15 minutes. You don't have to do anything. The app does everything. You just lay there with your eyes closed and just relax. The sound will play a part. The light will play a part. But once you get through the first few minutes for your first time, you'll then start to feel the sensation of being taken away into hypnagogia is the technical word for it. It's that halfway. Hypnagogia is the technical word for halfway between wake and sleep. Yeah. And you go into hypnagogia every single night, and you've already most likely had a hypnagogic hallucination. So as a test, if you've ever been in bed, you're kind of laying there in bed, half asleep, about to drift off, and you've opened your eyes and you've seen something in your room, and it's been a pile of clothes on, you're looking at it and you're thinking, what the is that? You turn your light on, it's something completely different. That is a hypnagogic hallucination. It's when you've been half awake, half dreaming, and you've had your eyes open and then effectively hallucinated. And we can take you to that hypnagogic state within minutes. So it's not like a sleep drug where we're going to turn off certain synapses and we're going to raise certain chemicals and hormones in your body and put you to sleep. What we do is we take you to that halfway state very quickly, and then we hold you in that halfway state for a set period of time. And then once we've got you in that state, we slow the light patterns down to mimic the brain waves that you would be in deep sleep. So then after being in a very deep sleep state in hypnagogia, we then put you even further into a sleep state by inducing what's called the frequency follow response. So your brain responds to the frequencies that are around you. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's quite easy to do with sound. So obviously we're a lot more visual than we are auditory, but a good way to explain it with an example is with sound. So you can feel the difference between, we're talking at quite a fast rate. We're going to be on beta kind of brainwaves. You've heard the different brainwaves like delta, theta, beta, going to get all the way up to gamma. And at the moment, we're going to be kind of around that. If I suddenly...
That's weird.
Already you're having to interrupt, you're having to go because you feel that I'm too slow for you, and you feel that that is too slow. It's not where we are right now. But that would be more around where you're going for like a sleep rate. So what we do with the brain is we kind of catch you when you're at this kind of rate with the lights, and then we gradually slow it down without you really noticing, and we have you on that slow metronome with the light, and that mixed with the sound, which kind of helps you disassociate and kind of forget where you are, really, really lets you slip into sleep very easily. So it's not a guarantee, but we put you into that hypnagogic state and then slow you down to that very slow state without you really noticing, so then you can go drift off by yourself.
And is this something that gets disputed by science or anything like that?
Not really disputed. It's just that the technology hasn't really been used for sleep before, because what it does is it induces that hypnagogic state. So that hypnagogic state when you're laying there, halfway between wake and dreams, has been used throughout by lots of famous people. So Beethoven's used it. Tesla was a famous user of it. Edison was a very famous. Dali, we used to use it. I don't know if you've ever heard that Edison used to have like metal balls or pots and pans in his hand. So he'd go to bed, he'd be in an armchair, you hold heavy metal objects in your hand, and you try and let yourself go as close as to sleep as possible without letting yourself fall asleep. Hypnagogic state, you're into hypnagogia. The reason you hold the pans is because if you drop them, they suddenly clang and make a sound and it wakes you back up. So you don't, because you don't just want to take loads of naps, you're trying to get into that hypnagogic state. When you're in that hypnagogic state, very, very creative, very kind of inspired. It allows you to problem solve, all very kind of loose terms and hard to kind of quantify, but it is very much like that in that state. So he would often get into that state as, Dali would do it for creative, for his art. Edison would do it in terms of creating new inventions. Loads of people throughout his history, Edgar Allan Poe did it. Loads of people through history have found value in the hypnagogic state. And the other technology that's used it, they've used it to put you into that state for those kind of things, because that's how it's been used. It's inspiration, it's creativity, it's mental exploration, it's like an introverted introspection kind of thing. And no one's really realized that, if you just slow it down a bit or a lot, then it just puts you to sleep. So I'm the first one to take what this technology is, put it onto a phone and aim it towards the slow patterns that put you to sleep.
Okay, that is fascinating.
The ancient Greeks would supposedly use it, again, for insight and prophecy, I think is what they used it for. So they would stick a cartwheel on your shoulder, so you've got the axle, you're holding on your hand on your shoulder, and you've got a wheel in front of you, and you're looking through the spokes of the wheel. And if you look at the sun, obviously don't look at the sun, but if you look at the sun with your eyes closed, and then you slowly spin that wheel, the spokes will go in front of your face and create that kind of stroboscopic effect, where the light goes on, off as the spokes are in front of you. And then they would induce hypnagogia. Obviously, I didn't know what it was back then. I think hypnagogia is a Greek word, sounds Greek, and they would induce that state to then be creative. They'd see, the future, whatever else. So it's been around for a long time, and it's always been in that direction.
They're very interesting the way they try to induce certain types of thinking. Even you've heard of a symposium, right?
Go on.
A symposium. It's what people use to describe we're having a symposium about something, we're going to discuss a topic.
Right, yeah.
And they use it in terms, but that's a Greek term. But a symposium was where they would get together and they'd drink wine.
Okay.
And they drink wine to kind of let the words flow, but they had someone there called the symposiarch. And the symposiarch's job was to make sure that the flow of wine was enough that no one would get drunk, but they'd have enough.
Well, delicate balance.
So it was there to make sure. Yeah. So it's like having your mates around. We're gonna have a chat about something. No one wants to get too drunk. I'm gonna make sure of that.
Yeah, okay.
And it's so that they can get the right flow of conversation. And so they've also been doing this with the wheel. They're obviously very into that, and they also have probably the most famous Stoics as well.
I think there's a lot to be said for. You can get very easily stuck in your mind a one-track way of thinking and perceiving the world, and I think things that can help you deviate from what your normal kind of conscious path would be, or the way you normally problem solve or think about things, can be really, really helpful. So whether that's in getting into a hypnagogic state, maybe it's getting a little bit tipsy, obviously not hard drunk, or maybe it's other drugs or something. Something that can bend you a little bit left or right to what you'd normally be on, can fill you with a lot of insights. Because most of us walk around blinkered. We've got a way of perceiving the world, with its background genetics, everything that plays a factor into it. And everyone makes mistakes. And you can end up down paths or, fall down holes that you would have been able to see if you were looking from a slightly different angle, but you don't. Yeah. You're always seeing from the same angle, from your same eyes. So, it's useful to have, if not an external partner or someone that you can trust that can see things from a different angle. If you haven't got that, then you probably have to do it yourself by bending consciousness a little bit.
And who knows, maybe someone listening one day will end up on a first date with you. And you will induce them into a hypnotic state.
Come back.
Yeah, high levels of trust. I mean, I would have been running for the hills had you done that. Just lie down.
Yeah. If I found out my sister had something like that, I would have told her, "You're crazy. What are you doing? Letting someone do that to you?" But
So look, we are going to try some quick fire questions with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I've shown you them a little bit. Now you don't need to get them bang on.
Right.
But Mr. Ducat, let's start. So, books that change your way of thinking, other than one you've already mentioned.
That was the most influential book I've ever had. So do these need to be quick fire responses? Yes. Okay, of course, yeah, I can't just let myself go. A book that has really changed me. The Meditations and Seneca's Letters was good, but we've already mentioned them. I would have said the next one was actually The Black Swan by Nicholas Nassim Taleb. I think
Is
it
that
was
what
him.
the film's based on? Black Swan.
No, that's something completely. I think it's a ballet, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like a.
No, the Black Swan is
Swan Lake, isn't it?
the Black Swan is a very long-winded but well-exampled and well-written way of explaining the problem of induction, which I understood already from philosophy. It's a way, it's a problem in terms of the theory of knowledge. But the way he explains it helps me see things in my life differently. And really, the things that have stopped me in business the most, the things that have been the biggest hurdles, have all been black swans. They've been things that do you know what black swan theory is?
No, what is it?
So, it's in summary, it's a way to explain the problem of induction. And the example they use is, in the UK, all swans are white. So everybody in the UK thought swans are white. Swans equal white. Every swan is white. So because every swan you've ever seen is white, you assume that all swans are white. And you have no evidence to suggest otherwise. Why would you be wrong? Until English explorers went down to Australia, and there are black swans down there. So suddenly, the swans are black or white. So the problem of induction is, just because you've seen that over and over again, and that's the only proof point you have, that doesn't mean that that's all there is. There are potential exceptions that can come in out of nowhere that you just don't know about. And personally in business, I've found that there have been certain events that aren't in the business plan, certain life events that have just come out of nowhere, and they've been the ones that have disrupted me the most.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Black Swan is a really good book.
I like that.
A bit of a heavy read, but easy, accessible, practical philosophy.
Okay, that's interesting. Favourite quote or line?
Probably Memento Mori, one that I do. Actually, I do think about that quite a lot. I do genuinely think about the Roman Empire on a regular basis. I know it's a meme, but I do genuinely think about, Memento Mori.
Okay, best country you visited?
Best country I've visited? Best in terms of...
Your favourite? Favourite, it can be the experience you had there, the place you most want to go back to.
I've been really lucky in that my parents back in the day, they weren't so focused, like we didn't have PlayStation and stuff back in the day. They were more like Sky TV, they were focused on to go on holidays. That's what we save up for, and we have crazy holidays. So I was lucky enough to, when I was really young, we went to Cuba, with Sri Lanka, Cambodia. It was like always crazy holidays like that. So it's really hard to choose. I think Cuba was very special just because it was so out there, and it was before like health and safety. This is like in the late 90s, I think we went there. So yeah, it was un-Americanized and no health and safety. Yeah. The fruit was amazing. The fruit, I ate so much, I ended up making myself ill, but I just couldn't stop. The pineapple was amazing out there. So yeah, maybe Cuba. It's between Cuba and Cambodia and Sri Lanka. Yeah, I never really liked the Middle East when I've been there. It's been lovely, like the weather's been lovely, and the food's always been really nice, but it didn't really have, I like the nature that you get in a lot of these places. There isn't like a lot of nature out there. Mexico was a real surprise. Mexico, I mean, I don't know if it's racist, but my assumption of Mexico was deserts and like banditos. I'm thinking Speedy Gonzales is like my only experience of Mexico. Wasn't like that at all. It's lush jungles, parrots, pelicans flying around. Mexico was beautiful. Really, really surprised me.
I've always thought of Mexico as very like
dusty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not at all. It's jungle.
No, I might have to go. The jungles are very nice. And place you haven't been, but you'd like to visit?
It's a bit far away, but I'd like to go to Antarctica. I'd really like to see that. I'd like to do the pyramids, but I'm so put off by seeing the aerial shots of it. We got the city right there, but I'd like to go into them and see them.
Why Antarctica?
Just because it's so alien. So my one place that I would really like to go is, David Attenborough, when he's in that like bubble submersible, he can go into the deep sea. I would love to, although that billionaire, the billionaire ended up dying on it. I would love to be on those deep level submersibles. I'm a little bit claustrophobic, but I would get over that to be in the deep sea. The deep sea I find fascinating. I've always kind of liked sea creatures. Say I used to keep fish tanks, had a pet shark back in the day. Caused a lot of trouble, that pet. Who'd have known that having a pet shark would cause troubles?
You had a pet shark?
Pet shark, yeah. It wasn't a true shark, it was a rainbow shark, but it was of like the same genus.
How big is that?
So when I bought him, he was like that. He was tiny, and he was getting bullied by all my other fish in the tank. So I used to have like a tropical community tank, like a 140-litre tank in my living room. A piece of pride for me. I regularly like caring for something. I think it's in human nature to want to nurture something and help something grow and take care of things. And it was like my things that I was taking care of. They're my pets. When I bought him, he was like that. He was getting bullied off food. He was getting pushed around in the tank. And then he'd get bigger, until he was about like that big. It was like 10 times the size of all my other fish, and he was ruthless. He owned the whole bottom half of the tanks. Everything else was pushed into the top half.
Really?
They couldn't come down to get food. He was relentless. Anything got even slightly sick, he would just eat them alive. The euthanasia I had to commit with that was just, no one told you when you're buying a fish tank that you have to kill so much or euthanize so much. And it's tricky to try and kill. Like, how do you kill your pet? Like, you want to try and do it in a nice way. I had a gun at the time, like, do I shoot it? But it's tiny, the ricochets are going to go everywhere. That doesn't feel safe. So the first way I tried was with a spade. So a strobe light, just gently, Hypnogogia, and then that would have been a way. I don't know if Hypnogogia works on fish. Should have tried it, never did. I don't know if it did, because they never reacted to flames, which I always thought was an interesting thing. I used to hold a lighter in front of the tank, and they were curious. Most animals run away from flames, but fish went towards it. Maybe because flames aren't in there. They've never had to evolve a fear of fire because they're underwater. Don't know. I don't know anything about that.
I wonder what that is.
But yeah, I used to try a spade. Was the first few times, so I'd chuck it on the floor, a half-eaten, half-dead thing. It's only got, hours to live, potentially like a day or so. I need to put it out of its misery. But that would create quite a splat. I had a hammer at one time, but then you're playing whack-a-mole as these things are like going around. So you could try the freezer, but I thought that felt like quite a brutal way to kill something, was to freeze it to death.
You've thought about this a lot, though.
I had to, because I felt bad for these animals. I wanted to do it in the quickest, most painless way. You can flush them down the toilet, but then they're drowning on like waste. So that'd be like you suffocating in a room of farts. That's a horrible way to die.
Hammer.
So the hammer would be, but then you're suffocating and flapping around like
in between.
And the bits, it's rough. So the way I thought was the most, the quickest and least stressful for the fish was to get a plastic cup and have feel like an inch of water in the bottom of it. I would then catch the poor fish that needed euthanizing, put that into the cup, go outside to the front of my house, and then have like the biggest baseball swing I could manage, like hand behind my head, and then throw as hard as I can the cup at the floor, but hold on to the cup at the last minute. So I would kind of whip the fish out at breakneck speed onto the pavement and kind of just stun it, and then and then that would be dead. And then I'd let the circle of life. I'd let the local cats eat it, which would often happen in minutes.
So that's interesting. So my question was favourite country to visit.
And
we just 5 minutes of fish genocide. It's a little bit. I don't even know how I got there. I might have to rewind. Okay, so that's Antarctica. Funnily enough, I'm just reading a book about Robert Falcon Scott.
Okay.
First man to reach South Pole.
Okay.
Although the Norwegians might have been into it. I haven't finished the book, so we'll find out. Interestingly. Okay, best advice you've ever received?
Best advice you ever received? That was actually, so in terms of business, the best advice I received was fight the fight you can win. Yeah. And run away from things that you can't. So there was a particular project we were working on, and the reason I thought, and I knew I was right, and I was right, the reason that this business was struggling because of the way it's now free on the internet, this is what we're like fighting against, and I was really struggling with how to put this strategy together and like what that means and what that would mean for the company. And then the CEO of the company was working on the project as well, and I said, but this isn't a fight you can win, Ross. So don't fight that fight. The next fight we can win against is this competitor. That's your aim. Fight the fight you can win. And everything became a lot easier.
It's pretty good. Favourite cuisine?
Favourite cuisine? I eat anything apart from aniseed, peas, or like sweet things like ice cream and stuff.
But if you had to pick like French, Spanish, Italian, this is the only thing you can eat for the rest of your life. You only eat this cuisine.
Jesus.
Thai, Chinese, Indian.
I really do like Asian. I really like a curry, but then I couldn't eat curry all the time.
See, I think I would go curry just because. If you think about it, one of my favourite meals is, I said this on the last one as well, one of my favourite meals would be, you got Friday night down the curry house, a good one.
Yeah.
Where you have...
You don't want a ropey one.
A big old starter, poppadoms, your chutney, your chicken tikka masala, which is great British dish.
Yeah.
So, your naan.
I do think there's a lot in that. I do have an answer.
And a cobra.
I think I wouldn't want it every day, but my favourite meal of the year is Christmas dinner. I look forward to that for months.
It is good. To be fair, a good fish and chips. I always have jumbo sausage and chips. I never the fish.
Oh, okay.
But from a good fish and chip shop, obviously it has to be a good one, but that's always very good.
Yeah, okay. No, I like the variety of Christmas dinner. There's lots of different flavours.
So you would go, if I was cuisine is British?
I would guess British.
Damn,
I wouldn't have said that.
He's a patriot. He's a patriot. Okay, dream dinner party guest. You get 3.
I would be a nerd about it and probably get some old philosophers back. So Marcus Aurelius would be fun. I would get Nietzsche back, even just to slap him and just say, you caused me a lot of pain in my life. How dare you? But he'd be interested to talk to. And then what would be the third? Maybe Seneca.
Any musicians?
The thing is, musicians there'd be a lot of musicians I'd like to talk to. Probably Dennis Brown. Yeah, the true king of reggae. Yeah.
Okay. So Dennis Brown, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca.
and Nietzsche. Marcus.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So you got to put 3.
Yeah. So I would do Dennis Brown, Marcus Aurelius, and Nietzsche. That would be a weird crowd.
That would be interesting.
That'd be a weird crowd.
And Ross Ducat.
And me. Yeah.
I'd love to be a farmer all for that one. Okay. Biggest regret.
Biggest regret. So I do have one big regret. So there was a time in my life, and I made the decision when I was in Ibiza, like halfway through an Ibiza holiday. So I wasn't bang on, but I was pretty sure what I wanted to do. And whilst do I regret? It's hard to say whether I regret. So I was at the time, I'd just been offered my master's degree. So, hey, you've got the place, you can go do this. At the same time, I'd got a phone call from a friend who was running what was then a very successful set of techno nights down in Brighton. Techno was just kicking off. And he was earning like amazing money from it, amazing money. Yeah. And at the time he was saying, look, this is going places. I need someone I can trust. I need someone who's like into this. Would you be willing to go for it? I would split things with you. You could be my business partner. He ended up retiring after university on it. So there's been a regret of being like, hey, if I didn't do that master's degree, I could have been like retired by now. Maybe it would have been even bigger because we've been working together. I'd have been like some music like Kingpin. But then, I think if you do have regrets in life, it's always important to think about them. But at the same time, it means you aren't where you are now. And I think if you're focusing on regrets, it probably means something else you're unhappy with in your life. And I'm lucky to be happy with where I am now. And if I changed course, I wouldn't be where I am now.
That's a good answer. I think a lot of people like to just say, I don't have regrets. But I think that's a very salient point that if you're focusing on regrets, it means you're not happy with what you have done. You can still have regrets while being happy with what you're doing. Yeah, I think regrets, there's loads of simple ones like I wish I'd never taken up smoking. But then at the same time, smoking made me a lot of friends. It made me a lot of connections. It's helped me a lot of times. I just wish I wasn't addicted to it. Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, favourite film? Favourite film? One that's affected me a lot. Waking Life really affected me. That was strange. That's crazy. That is a film about Hypnogogia. Is it? And I never realised that until now. That affected me a lot when I saw that at university. It was just by chance I ended up watching that. And it's between that and I think only because I ended up seeing that one last night when I was saying I ended up watching The Godfather. I saw that when I was ill. I was like 14. Godfather 2. This was Godfather 2. I need to watch all of them again urgently because I saw them in a row when I'd had tonsillitis that ended up going to glandular fever. I was full-blown hallucinating, like in and out of consciousness. It was a 3-day period where I basically just skipped 3 days. I was on the sofa. I'd never been that ill before. And during that time, my mum, bless her, had put on The Godfather 1, 2 and 3 and ended up watching them. But I was too young to understand the subtlety of it, the significance of some of the moments. I've not seen it. Have you not seen it? Or Godfather? Oh my! It's one of the. I've seen most of the sort of classic. I've never seen Godfather. That was I was only watching it last night. I appreciated. Now I'm a bit older. I appreciated some of the nuance in it, and so I'm actually desperate to see 1, 2, and 3. Godfather 2. Okay, biggest fear? Spiders. Spiders, yeah. Spiders, straight out, easy. Yeah. I used to be terrified of spiders. I've got way better. How do you do that? I used to not be able to touch them in the house, like the big house spiders. And now, I don't know, I think I had to remove some once and then just was a bit like, okay.
I'm
I think
with little
seeing them
ones.
as friends as well helps.
Friends.
If you go, oh, it's a poor spider that's stuck, all you see is this horrifying thing that moves really quickly. So,
Well, I had a bad incident with that on Monday, just gone, which is why I had to use. I've been having to use the Lucia Light a lot this week from little traumas. Where on Monday, I had a great day in the office. We'd had some new app testers. They'd done some amazing reviews. They come back with all the positive stuff. I'd had a couple of things I've been chasing for a while all land on Monday, so buzzing when I got home. And I got home for about 7 o'clock. I'd already made dinner from Sunday night, so I didn't have too much to done. I'd done the gym in the morning, so I was like, I've got the evening free. I've had a great day. It's sunny outside. I'm going to go and lay outside in the garden. So I thought, clothes off. As soon as I got home, I think about it the whole way home. Clothes off, swim shorts on, and I thought, actually, I'll just have a little snack. So I put my slippers on and go downstairs because I was in barefoot. I put my right foot in, fine. I put my left foot in, and I felt like a crunch, almost like, when you try shoes and there's paper at the bottom of them still, you're trying your shoes on. Felt like that, and then something hurt my middle toe. So I pulled it out thinking, what the hell was that? And as I pulled out, something black-brown darted back in to the slipper. I was very, very scared, but had a scared of, well, I didn't really react. It was kind of like a numbness. So I thought, I need to look and see what that was in there. So I went and turned my bedside light on so I could see what was going on, picked the shoe up to kind of look down it, and it was by far the biggest spider I've ever seen in the UK. This thing was the whole bottom of my slipper. If I was to have my hand out, it was like an inch below each of my fingers was the spread of it. It was massive thing. And it was slowly moving around, obviously because I'd injured it, I'd broken a leg or something. It was slowly moving around at the bottom of this slipper. Normally, I would have screamed, I'd have run around, but it wasn't any of that. It was just a cold, calculated, this needs to die. This needs to end right now. I need to deal with this. I put the shoe down and I just stamped on it, and I heard this crunch as I went down on it. Still didn't react, didn't do anything. Went up to then the bathroom with the shoe in my hand. Normally I'd be scared to be around it, but it wasn't any of that. It was just I had to deal with it. I live alone. I mean, there was loads of spiders in my house. I just had to operate with this. Tapped it on the toilet seat, and it fell into the toilet. And on the water, it was sitting there in the water, and it was touching 3 sides of the edge of the toilet with this leg span in the water. Then I thought, just flush it and get rid of it. And as soon as it flushed, it's all of it hit me. I had a 10-minute, of all the fear, how yuck that was. For about 10 seconds, just getting it ready. When you hit your coccyx, it was that kind of revolting. And then for the rest of that day, the rest of that evening, every 20 minutes or so, I'd remember it and just just shiver at it. Now I've got a new phobia. I don't put my slippers on without checking down them. But I was so scared. I was thinking about it in night, are there other spiders? There's loads of cracks in my floor. I've been living in quite an old house. Is something going to come around? And I just couldn't sleep, so I had to put the Lucia Light on to just calm me down, think about something else, let my mind drift, and the light took me away.
Yet another quick-fire question that ends in an animal death.
Yes, I'm not some animal murderer.
I killed the spider. So did you take outside in the car?
I really like animals, and I like caring for animals.
You do.
Horrible, damn.
Okay, so as you do like animals, if you had the ability to turn into any animal you'd like, what would it be? And you can't say eagle, because that was the last one we had.
Eagle?
Well, so they can fly. Turn into any animal, whatever you like.
Flight would be amazing. I think I'd probably go halfway. I'd want new senses. It'd be fun to turn into a gorilla, but then you've still got opposable thumbs and fingers. It's not that much different to human.
You're very strong, though.
It would be good to be super strong. Have a harem of women that just follow you around. Would be quite nice. But I don't think that's too different from human. So I want something different from the human experience. And I think I would go bat, because then you get flight and echolocation. And it'd be interesting to know what the world is like with sound.
So you would turn into a bat at night?
I'd be Batman. Yeah, I would be bat. Yeah, if I could do it at will, I think that'd be. That would
fit well with your
way to live.
Normal first date routine as well. You shone a light in my eye and it turned into a bat.
Sonar.
Okay, perfect. And then last 2. If you give your younger self one piece of advice.
I think when I was very young, I think like most people do, you're wondering about who you are, how you fit in, what is my identity. I think it's more just you don't have to find that stuff out. That comes naturally. Just relax, carry on doing what you enjoy, and keep doing things that are you, and stop trying to do things that you think other people would think are cool. And you realise that actually being cool is not doing what other people think is cool, and doing your own thing and then getting better at it is actually what makes you cool. So just stop. Yeah, don't worry about impress. Yeah, don't impress anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to tick any boxes. Say no to things you don't want to do, and say yes to things that you're a bit nervous about but excite you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then final one that I've added just for you is if you had to pick one favourite song, you have to pick one.
I
think you reeled in disgust.
it's just I don't know how to do it. Whether it's like there's so many that meant a lot to me. There's a lot with nostalgia. I think maybe in terms of like DMZ was one of my favourite labels, and like Koki and Marla were one of my favourite producers, two of my favourite producers. And there was a particular Marla song that gave me memories from being in Bristol, like the first time I ever went raving in Bristol, which is a great city for music. And it was one of my favourite to play, and it has such a big change in what it is in the first half to the second half. So I think it would be Marla, Lean Forward.
Marla, Lean Forward.
Yeah.
Great answer.
I'll show you it later.
Oh, I look forward to listening to it. And with that, we'll finish up.
Crazy.
My friend, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable. Nice.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Ducat.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Finish.
And there you have it. 2 hours of Ross squared. I really hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, he's a hell of a guy. I certainly did. Bye-bye.